What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the channel. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Today, we're talking Dynasty trades. We're going to go through all 5 players that either you should be buying or selling based on market price and market value right now. We have all the running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks you could want here on this show. So let's talk about one running back that's near dear to my heart, J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, I've been a big Dobbins fan if you follow me on social media for the last few years. And it's been nice to see him kind of come back, right? When you're thinking of his game log, what he's been able to do. And when you look at weekly finish in PPR, he's been good the first 2 weeks, right? Running back 4, running back 5. Last week, he came back to earth a little bit, really running back 31, depending on the format that you look at. 15 attempts, 44 yards. Wasn't amazing, right? But you have seen his dynasty value creep up, and you see that kind of as running back 19 already. That's how volatile the running back position is, right? Think of it, he was pretty much left for dead before the season, has a couple of big games. Now he's already a running back 2 value. I think that when you're looking at him moving forward, though, there's things to be concerned about. I wrote about him in the first week, and as much as I love Dobbins on our Substack, I do like kind of a dynasty takeaways every week. And I said, if you can get rid of him now, I would probably do that, right? And I just don't see that long-standing happening. Him going to be able to finish out the year, those type of things. I think more now is not necessarily about Dobbins. I want him to stay healthy. I'm not going to project that. But Joe Alt being gone, the other tackle being gone, that offensive line's kind of a mess, Herbert being injured. There's a lot of things about the Chargers that are kind of trending down. 25 years old, coming off all those injuries. Yes, he has a really high snap share. Yes, he's out snapping Gus Edwards. He's doing those things. But this could be the time to kind of move off of him. So when you're looking at kind of where he's going, what trades he's going for here, overall, just if you're going through here, J.K. Dobbins for Dallas Goedert in a second. Again, this is tight end premium. Goddard had a pretty good game. You think of Devonta Smith being injured now, A.J. Brown being injured. I think there's an avenue for that. Other deals here, J.K. Dobbins for Matthew Stafford and Superflex. I think this is a weird trade. But with Stafford, with the injuries there, will he come back a year? If you're looking for that fill-in QB, you need somebody. I think, hey, take a shot. What's the worst they can do? Decline it. The other one I thought was interesting was JK and Gus for Travis Etienne. Etienne's definitely fallen off a little bit. And if you can get Etienne there, I still like the Etienne side there. And then JK for a first. I mean, at any point, if you can get a first for JK Dobbins, you do that. I don't care if you're a contender or not, because you can flip that first for other assets. So if he's getting valued as a first, that's definitely an avenue for you to kind of go and attack that. Next guy I want to talk about, Diontae Johnson. He is freed. He is free of Bryce Young and whatever the hell is going on in that offense. And we saw him last week kind of go nuclear. 8 catches, 122 yards, a touchdown, wide receiver 4 in PPR leagues. So this is what we expected, right? Preseason, we said, hey, this is what Johnson was going to be, a week in, week out wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. And it looks like that way. When you look at his first read share, everything is trending that way for Diontae Johnson. As long as Andy Dalton's the quarterback, right? As long as Andy Dalton's quarterback, I still think that there's value there. And his value is still low, right? Wide receiver 52 on Keep Trade Cut. And now, Keep Trade Cut values all over the board because in a league, like I own tons of Diontae Johnson, right? He's on my team. After I see that, I'm not moving him for shit, right? I'm keeping him, holding him, going with it. This is why I have him on my contending rosters. Now, if you have a rebuilding or a middling team right now that's kind of dealt with injuries, that's the avenue to move him. As someone that holds him and is contending, I'm riding this train out because I do think target's going to be there. Game script's going to be there. He's going to be playing from behind a lot. I love the idea of taking that. Now, when you're looking at recent deals, now these are all deals that happened within the last day. Deontay for Calvin Ridley. Give me the Deontay side. I'm still on that side there. Deontay for Ladd McConkey and Cole Kmet. I understand that that value's over there, but that's a very good contending versus rebuilding deal. I still like Deontay on that side there. Deontay and Juan Jennings for Michael Penix Jr. Again, that's more of a contending versus rebuilding. I'll stash Penix. Here's Deontay for you there. And then Juwan's just kind of that fill-in for the next few weeks. Deontay for a second. He's still getting valued around that second mark. I still think that's a hell of a value if it's a late second to go grab Diontae Johnson. So these are the areas, the avenues I would go with. I still think he's a buy if you want to stop it and look at kind of the trades he's going for. Deontay shredded for Mark Andrews. I highlighted Mark Andrews in my Dynasty piece for Substack today. I talked about him just being, hey, the numbers are not looking great. The snap share is not looking great. At a certain point, he's going to have a game, and the tight end position is so volatile that, hey, maybe Mark Andrews comes back. But I think moving forward, I'd rather have Deontay because I think the volume of the target's going to be there, right? So these are some of the prices they're going for. To me, Deontay's a buy. Deontay's going to be a buy for the rest of his career for me. So, take that with a grain of salt. But I do think volume, target share, first read share, Andy Dalton playing. When you're looking at Adam Thielen being injured, there's a lot of things that connect the dots here that Deontay's just going to get a ton of targets. 14 targets this last game. It would not shock me to see him hover around that for the rest of the season. Next guy is an interesting one, Michael Pittman. So what are we doing? What the hell are we doing with Michael Pittman Jr.? When we're looking at overall, he's been really, really bad this year, right? Wide receiver 53 this last week, 4 catches, 36 yards. A lot of that has to do with his quarterback play, right? He has not been great when you're thinking of Anthony Richardson and that connection. And you see that value plummeting. That dynasty value is definitely going down. Couple things to note about Michael Pittman, going through the numbers, looking at kind of the areas, first read and designated share leader. So this is kind of something that I looked up for at Fantasy Points. Minimum 50 routes, 15 targets, 3 games played. So here's kind of the first read their teams are going. Michael Pittman's sitting at 30%. So he is in a top 15 of wide receivers getting that first read share. So they're getting him the football, or they're trying to, right? So it's not a lack of targets, I don't think. When you're looking at it, this last week he caught 4 or 5 of his targets. It's kind of the efficiency of those targets, where they're going. Are they deep? The deep passing game has been there, right? And I do think that when you're looking at him, I think, wide receiver 3 is probably finish is kind of what we're looking at here. I do think they're going to kind of scheme him, get the ball more. I still think he's a wide receiver 2. I've never been huge on Pittman anyway in his value. And he is a little bit older, right? When we're thinking of age in that 26, 27 mark. So I don't love the idea of buying Pittman, but his price is so low that you'd have to expect him to come back. When you're looking at this, like Pittman for Godwin, I probably lean Godwin based on this year, right? Rest of season this year, I'm leaning Godwin there in that offense. Pittman for Kirk Cousins and Juwan Jennings. Again, if you need a quarterback, that's not a bad gift for Kirk Cousins and having that filler, right? J.K. Pittman in a third for Aaron Jones. So you can get Aaron Jones. I'd probably want the Michael Pittman side on that one, to be honest with you. And just talked about, J.K. Dobbins. I still get that wide receiver back, and I get that third round pick value back. Pittman in a second for Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed, again, with the way the Packers are going without Jordan Love, it's been kind of inconsistent from that standpoint. If I can get a second in Pittman, that's pretty much the same player, and you're adding a second to it, I'm okay with that. I don't mind doing that, but I know there's some Jaden Reed truthers out there. And then Pittman and Keon Coleman in the third. Keon Coleman got benched recently, kind of. Then he scored a touchdown. Not going to be the most volume and targeted player ever. You get that third back. Maybe you want to pivot off of Pittman to Keon Coleman. It's kind of the same player a little bit. That's not a shot at Pittman. Just, what does that look like? Maybe you like having him with Allen more than Anthony Richardson, and you can kind of pivot away from that. Next guy I want to talk about, George Pickens. And you know what? It's coming, man. George Pickens is right there. I think fantasy analysts are talking about him kind of being that next breakout guy. First read shares at 31%. And I know he hasn't necessarily panned out from a statistical point of view. 5 catches, 57 yards, wide receiver 43. His keep trade cut, when you're looking at that, is wide receiver 25, not 57. That's overall, but wide receiver 25. And again, he's been there. He tied with the leading receptions on Sunday. He has that. He's going to get a heavy target share. Like, it's going to happen at some point, right? They've been heavy focused because of Arthur Smith on running the ball and Justin Fields being there. But he gets a pretty good matchup this week against the Colts. I do think that he could kind of have that game where you're like, oh, that's him. The targets have been there, right? 7 targets against Atlanta, 4 against Denver, Chargers, 7 targets. So they've been there really well. If he can just get in the end zone, we're talking about a whole different Michael Pickman story, right? When you're thinking of just what he was able to do that first week with those 7 targets, I mean, he finishes a wide receiver 2. If he gets that touchdown, he's a low-end wide receiver 1. And still his value is kind of in that low-end wide receiver 2 value. So there is a market for him to go get him. There's no one else there. I think the one argument you can say is like Justin Fields isn't good enough. You can say Russ isn't coming back. What's going on there? Arthur Smith's a headache. We know fantasy managers know all about Arthur Smith and what he tries to do. I mean, scheming red zone touchdowns for Darnell Washington is a pain in the butt. We know that. But the price, when you look at George Pickens and his price, George Pickens in a second for Zay Flowers. If I can get George Pickens and in a second for Zay Flowers, I do that all day. They're the same tier. I'm okay moving around in tiers for extra picks. George Pickens in a first for Garrett Wilson in a third. That's a tougher one. I lean Garrett Wilson there. I always lean the best player, especially where I have him ranked. But it is to show you kind of what you can get for him if you wanted to move him. George Pickens in a third for Brandon Ayuk. Again, I align myself with Pickens side there, although I probably want at least a second, if not a first, but definitely a second back for Ayuk there. Some other deals there, Dalton Schultz and George Pickens for Hawkinson, Kraft in a third. I like the Pickens side there. I think that Pickens is still a value there. If you can get an asset plus with Pickins, right? For like that Zay Flower deal just kind of stands out to me. Or the veteran guys, right? Pickins a third and second for Connor and Kyron Williams. I want a first back though. I'll take a first and Pickens for those two guys, especially with Kyron and Connor kind of being that contender moving out. Those are the guys I'm going for there. Deontay, George, and a first for Judy, Etienne, and Alec Pierce. Smash the hell out of that. If you can figure out some way to kind of do that in your leagues, I highly recommend it. Going out and checking out Fantasy Calc and going through some of these trades and giving you ideas of how you can move these guys and then plugging them in and seeing based on your league, where's the value there. Now, last guy, let's talk about Justin Fields. Let's talk about his quarterback. Here's the thing. Wilson is probably not getting the starting job back from Justin Fields right now. I think that, with Fields had him at 3-0, he had a season high passing yards last week, 245 yards, that rushing touchdown there. If Justin Fields starts, he is quarterback one, right? If he's a quarterback, if he starts, he's going to finish as a top 12 quarterback because of that rushing upside. And when you're looking at that, 18 fantasy points per game, he's done that. And again, QB1 territory every week if he's out there. And I think the biggest thing is we've talked about this in the Discord over on our Patreon. And we've had some questions about Field, Lawrence, and added players in there, right? Not going to get in the nuance of the trade. But, I always lean with quarterbacks. It's tough because you want to lean that security, right? Do I want Trevor Lawrence, who got that contract and I know is going to be there and starting, or one bad game from Fields, now he's disappearing, right? If you're a risk taker, if you're a guy looking for this year and you can kind of wing it and go for it, I say take a shot at Justin Fields. And here's the thing. I think that based on the landscape of the NFL, look how many teams need quarterbacks. Look at what Andy Dalton just did. Look at some of these guys out here, Sam Darnold and everything. You can't tell me Justin Fields isn't going to find the field again. Like, let's say that, pitcher doesn't work out. There are openings everywhere. And when you're looking at his schedule, Indianapolis, pretty struggling defense. Dallas, they're struggling as well. Las Vegas, like opening up here, coming up into the season, he's going to continue to have good games. It would not shock me to see Pittsburgh being 5-1 at the end of that stretch, right? And maybe as a Homer Dallas fan, I'm just adding that win, but maybe 6-0. So Fields is going to be there. Maybe they get him that contract. Maybe he got a 2-year deal. He's probably going to get the Baker deal, if I'd imagine, by somebody. Maybe it's Pittsburgh. And then you're excited because that is a locked-in QB1 back in. And I think that when you're looking at his value right now, there's still some value to be had. He's going for a first in some leagues. Kicked that out to 26 first. You see that. Brian Thomas for Justin Fields, I think, is interesting, depending on what Fields is as your quarterback. If he's your QB 3 or 4 and you want to get that wide receiver that you believe in Brian Thomas, I get it. I always lean quarterback in Superflex, especially with top 12 upside, but I understand the other side of that deal there. Justin Fields for a first, essentially where he's getting valued, as you can see there. The other one, Fields, a first, 2 firsts, and a second for Jalen Hurts. At this point with Jalen Hurts and just his lack of a passing ability, the interceptions that we've seen, kind of not the upside there, that's an interesting side, right? Fields and get some first back. You have Fields this year. He could finish right there with Jalen Hurts. And then you get some first and some maneuverability in there. And that last deal I really like. Fields, Bijan Robinson in a first for Jonathan Taylor and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love that deal because it's a very fair deal for both sides there. But if Fields gets a contract, they win. So here's the thing you have to look at with your trading for Fields. If he gets that second contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he locked in as QB, top 12 QB, and you get that value. Boom, instant. So I do think that there's risk there, but I do think that the risk, and based on his schedule and what he can do this season, I think he's going to get the contract. And if he does, you're excited about that from a dynasty standpoint because he's a top 12 guy. So appreciate you guys tuning in here to the Dynasty Trades episode. Hope this guys gives you insight, right? I just like to show you guys, different trades out there that are going for guys that you can maybe target, guys that you might want to get rid of based on their value, and just to help you there. As always, drop them in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you have any trade ideas, any trade questions down there, or go hop in our Discord. We talk in there daily about life, about football, all that kind of stuff there. You can find that below at our Patreon. And you just have to, if you want to just join the Discord, go ahead. It's just the buck. Come in there, hang out. We talk about trades all day, football. It's a lot of fun. It's a great community. So appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys later.